Good morning, everyone. Happy daily drop-in. It is 7 a.m. Eastern, so we are live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch to welcome you into your morning. I am joined this morning by the incredible Andrea from the Teach Better team. Everyone knows you. I'm so excited that you're here. We're going to be able to talk shop. You and I were recently live together in our private Facebook group, which, by the way, if you guys are not a part of, head to teachbettergroup.com and it will direct you there. But we just did kind of a Q&A in there recently, and now we're going to be here. It's going to be so much fun to talk shop with you this morning. If you are here with us this morning bright and early, please feel free to utilize the comments to participate live in the show. We would love to have you participating, sending good morning messages, asking questions. That's what Andrea and I are here to do for you. It is Wednesday, September 8th, so don't forget, we also have a recommendation for you, which we have every single Wednesday. So go fill up your coffee so that you can start off with a morning cheers with us, and we will be right back. Good morning. Good morning. Happy daily drop-in. Andrea, I feel like we're just hanging out right now. It doesn't even feel like I have somebody here that I'm interviewing.
For sure. Good morning. I'm so glad I'm here with you.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Good morning. We want to start this morning with a morning cheers. We hope you guys are enjoying a cup of water, coffee, whatever suits your fancy in the morning. We want to make sure that we're welcoming you into the best day ever. I mean, we haven't lived it yet, but trust me, Andrea and I are predicting today's going to be the best day ever, even if you're sleepy, even if you have a lot going on, even with a busy schedule. A lot of educators had a short week because they didn't have school on Monday. So trust me, even though yesterday was exhausting, today's going to be the best day yet. And we're excited to welcome you in. Andrea, for people who may not be connected to you, I mean, you're literally so involved, but let's just pretend. Would you mind sharing a little bit about like what you do for the team?
Of course. Well, I'm Andrea, and I am the ambassador coordinator along with the incredible Megan Deegan, a guy I know all of you know. So we get to run our ambassador network, which has just been the best experience ever. And then recently now I am starting to do some work with the Academy as well. So a lot of things for the Teach Better team.
I know. I really love the work that you've been doing for the team because you say that you're involved in the ambassador program. Guys, Andrea and Megan like built the ambassador program and now just allow it to thrive, which is so neat. And then Andrea, you being able to also use your expertise as an educator to foster our academy and really develop that space so that educators around the world can take courses at their own pace and get certificates and all that cool stuff. Like, it's going to be really fun to have you in both spaces because they're very different roles.
Incredibly different, yes. And I'm just starting with the Academy, but I've got so many ideas, and I get to obviously work with you and Jeff some more, so it's going to be really great.
Yeah, we do have some exciting courses coming out in the Academy this fall. So if you are an Academy member, keep your eyes out. That's a $9 a month subscription that I know a ton of you are already utilizing. But we, Andrea, have some crazy goals for that Academy, like new courses like crazy this fall. So I'm a little like nervous about it, but I'm glad you're excited. That's great.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. If you've been thinking, if you've maybe been taking some of the free courses and thinking about joining the membership, don't wait. We have quite a lineup until the end of this year. And I know in 2022, we're going to have even more as well.
Can you make a prediction? I know I'm asking you for like spoilers 5 minutes into Daily Drop-In, but like, do you have a prediction of how many courses we might, no promises, we might hopefully be releasing between now and December?
About 4.
I was going to say like 4 or 5. Holy cow, that is crazy. Like, that's crazy. That's like one every 30 days, which is crazy. All right. Well, anywho, I love all of the goals that you have, and I'd love to actually discuss more about the ambassador program, stuff like that. If people have questions, obviously for the Daily Drop-In, we're live every single morning at 7 a.m. Eastern. And while we are here to talk shop, we have weekly themes. We have some features that we're excited to share with you, some celebrations. we're also here to take your questions. So if you have any questions about Teach Better Team specific things, along with things that might be going on in your classroom, please let us know. That's why we're here. Andrea, I know that you have spent so much time supporting students, but you are somebody who is constantly trying to enhance and support other educators as well. And I think that's why you fit so well in the ambassador program, is because you are constantly trying to support other people. But it was a weird way how you got involved on the team. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved?
Sure. Sometimes it's embarrassing to bring it up because I feel like Megan and I stopped the Teach Better team, but I know we are not the only ones. So many of our ambassadors and other people in our network have done the same thing. My school district used to do a Twitter chat, and Ray and Tiffany were guests, our guest co-hosts. So I was like, oh, who is this Ray? Who is this Tiffany? And started doing some more research. And Megan and I had the opportunity to go and visit Ray in her element at her school, and got to see the grid method in person, got to see the Teach Further model. And from there, I was hooked. So then Summer Spark, I know some of you that watch this daily drop-in are Summer Sparkers. We got to meet the rest of the team, like Chad and Jeff, and it just kind of fostered from there. And Megan and I were looking to kind of see, like, what does the team have to offer? And we had interest in a job that we had no interest in doing at all.
We had like an open position, guys, which we like posted on our website, and they're like, we can do that job. We're like, why would you want that job?
It was like our in, like, well, if we tried this job, then maybe we could try something else. And Jeff was like, no, but let's think about something else. And then that's kind of where the ambassador program developed from, and we just ran with it.
Andrea, I love how different your story with how you got involved with the team is. It's so different from my perspective of how you got involved in the team. Like if you asked me that timeline, I'd be like, oh, I met Megan because she had me look at her grid one time. Cool. So she was like, she was meeting with Tiffany, who, guys, if you don't know Tiffany Ott, she wrote the Teach Better book with us. She's an incredible educator. Go follow her, especially on Facebook. That's where she's most active. And she's like, Megan's like, oh, can you look at our grid? It was like, okay, I remember exactly. I was sitting in this chair in a different place, but in this chair when I was meeting with Megan for the first time. And then she was like, oh, I'm in Illinois. And at the time I was like, oh my gosh, Illinois people, I want to be best friends with you. And so I crafted up this reason I needed to go to her school and bring her donuts.
Yes.
Which in theory really made no sense at all. And then we obviously all connected together. And then if you would have told me Summer Spark, I would have been like, oh, you were already on the team at that point, but you're saying you weren't. Like in my mind, you've been around as long as I've been around. So it's confusing to me that there was a time before Andrea. Like, I don't understand.
Well, I think too, because when Megan and I came to visit your school, we went live with you. I remember I was like, what does live even mean? Like, what are we doing?
We did. Yeah. It was like on my phone or something, and we went live together from my classroom. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it just started from there.
So crazy. Yeah. I like that whole journey. Do you know what year that would have been? Can you I don't even know. So it's 2021 right now. It was 2018.
I was gonna say, I would guess 2018.
See, but that's what I mean, because I think I joined the team officially in 2017. So really, you have been around as long as I have been around.
Floating in the background, yes.
It's just so interesting. So it's just so fun to talk shop, because obviously, as all of you know, as educators, we kind of reflect on the years that we've been able to reflect and enhance the craft, the work that we're doing. And the Teach Better team to me is like a black hole. I'm like, I don't know where it starts or where it ends, but it's always good to hear people's stories on how they got involved. And I love that now you're just so unbelievably involved. Yeah, Megan's popping in the comments.
I just saw that.
2017. That sounds right, because I connected with Jeff and Chad the first time February of 2017 and officially joined the team August of 2017.
Okay.
So yeah, would have been just around that time. That's crazy. We have a ton of people also sharing their love for the ambassadors in the comments. Guys, the ambassador program is amazing. Right now, applications are closed. We can dive more into that if you're interested. Andrew, I think talking about the ambassador program could be cool to also take questions during our brainstorm bank segment.
Sure.
But before we get into all that fun, let's transition here and do some celebrations. We have a good news story, kind of all that stuff. Start us out as everyone's sipping their coffee. Does that sound good?
Perfect.
All right. All right, guys, let's start out with some good news. I am going to start out with a comment. I just love this comment. Thank you for typing this, Adam. Adam says, I love being an ambassador. Andrea is a huge supporter of me. That is Andrea to a T. Like, Andrea, you need to like make this quote a bumper sticker or something that sits on your desk, because it's just the reality. You're constantly just being a supporter of others. And this to me was like the perfect way.
Thank you, Adam. So sweet.
So fun. Andrea, I know you are like me, and we always are looking for things to celebrate. I think every day should have a cheers and a celebration and all good things. So today is September 8th. We have a good news story headed your way, which Andrea, I think you're going to like because I picked it special for you. But it's also International Literacy Day, which is a huge day. Andrea, as a book lover, tell me about why it's cool that it's International Literacy Day.
Oh, well, I love this. So in my classroom every day on my agenda, I always post what the random holiday is. And it started off just like one day. I did it like years ago. It was like International like Pretzel Day, something ridiculous. And then I did it like every couple days, and the kids were like, "Can you do it every day?" And now it's like my thing. So when it's usually random, but when it is something like this, like International Literacy Day or Banned Books Week, I get so excited. Because I'm like, you guys, this is the day just for us. And they like laugh at me and they're like, but it's not. But it is. And then we like, sometimes, it'll spawn conversation. And last year when we were remote on Zoom, they would chat me all the time, like what the other holidays were too. They're like, I know you picked the book one, but it's also, International Hopscotch Day. And I was like, all right, I guess we can talk about that too. But no, literacy is so near and dear to my heart.
Oh, it'd be so fun to be in your classroom with all those celebrations. I just feel like the energy you must exude when it's International Literacy Day, like anything involved with books, I just can imagine you shining all day long and students just goofing off with you all day celebrating.
Oh yeah, like when it's international, maybe I can come back for the daily drop-in. When it's International Book Week, it's always in October. Or International Banned Books Week, I should say. That is like my jam, because every day I read an excerpt from a banned book, and they get so excited because I like get into it. I turn the lights off, and I'm like, shh, we have to be quiet. No one can know we're reading a banned book. And I put like the caution tape, from Halloween, like on the door, and I'll put it on the book. It's exciting.
I don't know anything like about this week celebration. We need to go look up the dates for this and add that to our celebration for Daily Drop-In. What a huge deal.
Oh yeah, I'll let Rachel know.
That'd be good. Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Rachel on the Teach Better team. That girl gets so many shout outs on this show. Guys, I don't think she watched this show. Somebody needs to like tag Rachel Jensen, or better yet, let's think of like a mystery word or something that we can like. She will not watch the show. I really don't believe. Like, she's involved in the Daily Drop-In too. Like, she does so much prep work. She does so much back end work. And I'm going to guess that she doesn't watch the show.
She's probably sleeping, right?
I do say, like, she's not an educator, and although she's a huge supporter of the team, she has a ton. I don't mean to call her out that she doesn't watch the show, but she's probably sleeping. She's a college student, so I don't remember many college students being up at 6:15 a.m.
Or at least being up and wanting to like watch something educational-ish.
You know what? We're just going to keep judging her. It's fine. I do have a good news story for you, Andrea, because I was thinking about, this is kind of a stretch, but when I saw this story, it has to do with ducks. And I love ducks as an animal, but I also always think of you as like the coolest mom ever with your two adorable children, which, by the way, we have to talk about. That must come up at some point today. And ducks remind me of babies. So I feel like there was a connection here.
Baby Luke loves ducks as well. He goes, duck.
See, that's why I picked it. It's because baby Luke loves ducks, and therefore this story had to be about ducks. So here's our good news story this morning. It says adorable footage shows a family of ducks being ushered out of a library after they waddled off the street. So adorable footage shows this moment of a family ducks checking out of a university library after they waddled in from off the street. Mother and 5 ducklings stunned the staff and students as they waddled through an open door at a university. And they're like going through like interviewing staff and students. One of the students says it was a very, very hot that week, and they left the doors open for extra air movement. And so the ducks came in looking for some cool air, and the mom came in totally calm and unflustered. After they apparently checked out a range of different bookshelves, they started to usher the ducks back out of the library. Someone notes here, you often come across ducks that are seemingly in odd places. This was one of my favorite places that I've ever seen a duck. The reason I brought this up is because there's actual footage of people filming the ducks walking around. I thought this would be such a funny story to bring to students, and especially as a reading and writing teacher, Andrea, I just constantly think of like, wouldn't this be such a fun prompt to have some creative writing going on of like the life of these ducks, and something to inspire and spark some story writing.
Oh my gosh, yes. So 2 days a week we do free writes for like their bell ringer. And I usually do, I saved them from years and years ago. Our local newspaper used to have random pictures, and it would say, what's the caption? And people would write in what the caption is. And it was the pictures like that, just very random of, ducks coming out of a library. And I would just show the picture. And then the kids had 8 minutes to write their free write on that. So this story matched with the picture, or video actually, would be the perfect story prompt for us.
Oh, I love that. That obviously works wonderfully for a reading or writing class. It's also something you could do as an icebreaker. It's something you could do in an advisory. It's something you could do in any class as just a do now, as students are getting ready and getting settled in their seats. That's a wonderful prompt that you're essentially putting up any goofy photo, and they're constantly thinking through that creative lens. That's a huge benefit to any type of class. Could you imagine a science class that if they were writing like a prediction or a hypothesis of what is going on in the story? I mean, that could be some really creative juices flowing right off the bat in any classroom.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's perfect for inferences, because when I show the picture, usually they don't have the background story like you had just shared, so they have to fill that in themselves. So they're making an inference. They're using their creative thinking. Sometimes I'll make it be a team activity. So pre-COVID, my students were sitting usually like in pods. So I would post a picture, and then I would set the timer for 60 seconds. So one person starts writing, and then they pass it to the next person. And then we kind of see how the story changes, all based on that same picture. And then between the groups, how the story changes. So it might be that picture of the ducks coming out of the library, and before you know it, they're aliens, jumping from the spaceship. So it's always interesting to see. And then I make it that teachable moment, that's how amazing reading and writing is, that it's never the same experience for each person. It always differs. You can see one thing and think this is the story, but then look at how much the story has changed from so many other people.
Oh my God, I love that activity. And as an educator, that doesn't take a lot of prep, right? What prep do you need to do to get that going? I mean, every student needs some sort of paper and something to write with.
Yeah, we would do old school, loose leaf paper and your pen, and you just kind of go to town with that. I mean, or otherwise they can have a shared Google Doc, since you don't have to be sharing, and then just kind of all typing on there when it's their turn to type.
I love it. Another thing that I've seen is, have you ever played that game where it's a picture and then you have to like write something about it, write something about the story, and then the next person that you pass it to has to draw what you've written, that goes back and forth?
Yes.
I think I would totally bomb at that game, but that's something that you could kind of look at too, to see the progression of what people are interpreting in the photos. I don't know if you're an artist, Andrea, but I think that my doodles would not do well in that game.
No. I will tell you how good of an artist I am. So many, many years ago, when I was teaching The Outsiders, there's so many characters. You have Sally and Soda Pop and Pony Boy. And so I thought, I would draw the characters, sketch them, and then I put their names on them, and we were, doing a character wheel. And the art teacher came into my room. She was like, "What are those supposed to be?" I'm like, "They're people, like they're characters from The Outsiders." And she was like, next time I'll draw them for you. Or there's this thing called the internet where you can print out a picture. So it was that bad that I was shamed by our teacher.
I would love to hear in the comments if you have a skill at art or drawing, which one are you like better at? Like, would you rather be sketching something or would you rather write something down? I'd love to hear some interesting fun facts. I have a feeling we could guess some people in the comments who are really active in our network what they are more drawn to. So I'm interested to hear about that. You know, Andrea, there's this week on Daily Drop-In is focused on being rather than only choosing to be a strong classroom teacher, kind of also choosing to be part of that larger environment, that larger ecosystem, being a good staff member. That's actually a goofy example of a teacher, you know, coming into your classroom, giving you feedback, wanting to be involved in a lesson. In my mind, that is choosing to be a part of like the greater community of entering into another teacher's classroom and saying, hey, I want to be involved. That kind of goes along with our theme this afternoon.
Oh, for sure. It's so important. I think so many people think like being involved in your school means having to join, be a coach or having to be the leader of an extracurricular. But it's so much simpler than that. It's really just being a good neighbor. I remember, again, several years ago, we had a new special ed teacher. And of course, like every new teacher, she spent, hours setting up her classroom, and she had, our students that had severe needs. So she really wanted to make sure that the environment was, perfectly set up for them. And I remember I was coaching, so I was leaving school late, and she was still in her room setting up. And I just popped my head in, and I just told her, I said, you are doing an amazing job, but now you have to go home. Like, you got to go home. And I didn't think anything of it. And I just kept on going. Then a couple of years later, she took a position within our district, but at a different school. And I remember her telling me, she goes, I hope, I can be for a new teacher what you were to me. And I wasn't her mentor. I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, I will never forget when you stepped in and just told me to go home. I was like, so it's as simple as that. It's telling your neighbor to go home if they need to. Just really, looking out for your fellow staff members.
I love this. Let's dive further into how being a good staff member is also being a good neighbor. I love that connection. And we're going to move on in our brainstorming section. You guys already know how this works. This is just a moment for us to intentionally say, hey, do you need anything? And not only are we going to talk about the theme that we have this week, I want to go on with that topic of being a good neighbor and how that can really involve you and not just the physical classroom that you are instructing students within, but also supporting those within the entire school building. But also, if you have a question about anything, that's why we're here. I know we have a lot of friends in the comments right now. Thank you for those of you who are tuning in live, or even if you're listening after the fact as a bonus episode of the Teach Better Talk podcast. That's why we're here. Please continue to send your questions. We want to make sure that as you continue to problem solve and brainstorm what you can do to best serve your student population, that you have somebody to spit ideas back and forth with. So that is why we're here. Andrea, you have been somebody that I've gotten to work with, at least from the Teach Better team perspective, for a long time, which we're able to kind of preview this morning. And I feel like you've always been such a strong team member for me, somebody I can go to and brainstorm ideas with. And like you and Megan especially are just the staple for the people that I'm like, hey, I have an idea. Can you make it like a real thing? I'm like, this is the idea. Now make it a reality. Like, how do we do that? I love that brainstorming we have. But bringing that into a school building is not always easy. There's a lot of teachers down the hall. There's a lot of people that you can pop in and say, hey, go home. And so as you've developed in your career, supporting the educators in your building, how have you started off that initial moment of building connections with other staff members, if they're new or old, and fostering those kind of like relationships?
For sure. I mean, first you have to personalize it and not make it be work, right? So just first by starting up, saying hi, letting the new staff members and the older staff members know, how are you doing? If you are friends with them, let's say in social media, and you see that, it was their son or daughter's first day of preschool, just say, hey, how did it go this morning? Thinking about you. Even if you don't have kids, it doesn't matter, right? Just trying to pull out something that you noticed, even if it's something like, oh, hey, I really like your shirt today. Or, just simple things. So starting off that way, because you don't never want to jump in and be like, oh, hey, so I have this idea. Maybe you should try in your classroom. That's going to turn people off right away. So just start off by being personal, and then you can kind of start, transitioning it to more professional things like, hey, would you like to come into my classroom? I would love your feedback on this activity that I'm doing. And then hopefully that'll kind of spawn their ideas. So I've had the opportunity to be a team leader for the team of teachers that I work with, as well as a mentor. And I always go with that. Like, although I'm your team leader, like we're all working this together. So if I ever have an idea that I want them to try, I always do it first and say, hey, I'm trying this. I would love your feedback. And then it kind of spawns from there.
Well, so let's dive into that. When I think educators are thinking of not just being a strong instructional leader, but also being a great staff member, two different concepts. I think a lot of educators are like, oh, that means I have to go lead every club in the building, or I have to go coach every sport. And you have like essentially coached every sport and been a part of every club, but that's not the only way to get involved in supporting the entire building.
Oh, for sure. I've been PBIS coach, and typically that, obviously is more student centered. But when Megan and I coached it together, we made sure to include the teachers. So the teachers were a big part of that as well. But yes, don't feel like in order to be involved, you have to run yourself ragged and, say yes to everything. That was something that I had to learn the hard way because my first few years teaching, I'm my second year teaching, so I'm a dancer. Those of you that know, I teach dance. I danced my whole life, and they needed a cheerleading coach. And I'm a new teacher, and can you coach cheerleading? And I was like, well, no, I do dance. They're like, it's the same thing. Those of you that know both, it's not. I kind of made it the same thing because I made them be a POMS team. Our halftime show was the dance with POMS. But I felt like I had to say yes. And those were the nights where I literally was up until 1, 2 o'clock in the morning doing choreography, grading essays. And I was still teaching dance on the side. So I definitely learned this the hard way, that it's okay to say no, but again, it's how you do it. So you don't want to say like, no, I'm not doing that, but I would thank you for thinking of me. I would love to get involved. This might not be the right fit for me, but I'm anxious to see what other things I can do to get involved in the school. So again, that's something I had to learn the hard way because I don't like to say no, but it's something that you do have to stop and think, what's best for me and what are you passionate about? I wasn't passionate about cheerleading. I made sure that I was passionate in the moment for those girls, but it wasn't something that I knew I could sustain because it wasn't my passion. But Ray saw me directing the play, and that's something I'm hugely passionate about. So that took up the same amount of time, if not more, I was passionate about it. So you have to kind of stop and think, where is your skill set? What are you passionate about? And then obviously stop and think too, how much time do I have to give to this project?
Well, and I was going to ask you for strategies to find that balance, but I think you just hit it on the head. I think that we need to make sure that when we're committing our time to things that support the greater school community and really understanding where your passions are can help you find the balance of what you choose to get involved in, because choosing to get involved is outstanding. And so even if you can commit, a few minutes, a few hours a week, I mean, depending on what your schedule looks like, we all have different capacities, and that time ebbs and flows as we grow into our profession. But really understanding what you could get involved in based on those passions is kind of the first step in making sure that your time is utilized appropriately.
Oh, definitely. And you can always start small. When I joined the play, I kind of came on as just they had approached me because of my dance background and just said, hey, would you like to do, choreography for 1 or 2 dances? Well, 1 or 2 dances then turned into 3 or 4. Then the next year I was the choreographer. Then the next year I was part director. So yeah, always kind of start small. And again, the other teachers knew to approach me because I was open about that. Like, oh, what did you do last night? Oh, I taught dance. So kind of you can just start, in conversation, sharing things, and then never know where it can connect from there.
Well, and I know a lot of these strategies are really most beneficial for new teachers because a lot of this discussion so far has been, oh, I'm uncomfortable saying no, right? Sometimes it's so hard when you're brought into a new role. You want to make sure you impress everybody that
Mhm.
just granted you this dream job, and you want to make sure you make everyone happy. And so finding those moments, those key phrases of, this is what I'm passionate about, this is what I'm comfortable communicating. Another thing you even referenced earlier was co-doing something with a friend or a colleague. That adds a very different workload to your to-do list when you're able to share the responsibility with others. And so that's an opportunity to say, okay, I'm not saying no, I'm just not fully committed to 100% of what that task is going to require of me. Can I bring on a co-host to help me with it?
That's exactly what happened with the cheerleading. I said, okay, I do have background, with dance. I said, but I can't, because at the time I was still teaching dance several nights a week. And I said, no, for some of the games, I might not be able to always be there or stay the full time. So I was able to bring on somebody else. She had no cheerleading experience, but she was on the back end. So she took care of the uniforms and the emails. And then she would stay with kids when I had to leave, who weren't picked up yet, so I could go and teach dance. So yeah, definitely, finding somebody else that can partner with you is a huge asset.
So we've kind of two ways of being involved in the school. One is to do what many educators think of in terms of giving back to your school community, where you're leading something, coaching something, running something. Another element you touched on, kind of on the other extreme, is just being a good person, right? Walking around and fostering positivity and appreciation for your colleagues. I feel like something in the middle is the concept of serving on a committee or serving alongside a community, but not necessarily being in charge, but being
Mhm.
more involved than just being an outsider looking in. Are there committees that you've ever chosen to be a part of that you can add your voice to, commit maybe a few hours a month to, but you've not necessarily chosen to take over the responsibility?
Definitely. So when the current school that I'm at, my second year there, I was like, okay, I need to get involved. My first year, I wasn't involved. I kind of was hired late. And I did that. I was a committee member. It was something called PLCAC. I know it's it's a strange name, but basically it is a committee where each team gets to submit one representative, and they meet with administration just to bring concerns or suggestions that they might have. It could be something as simple as supplies that we wanted to order, or something more complex as a new course that we wanted to think about, offering, or how to structure the park testing when it was still the park. So I started at that because it was one meeting a month, and I was able to, if I wanted to speak, I could. If I didn't, I could sit back and just kind of, say yes or no to things. So that was a good way to get started. And then I made my way into being team leader, which obviously was, a stronger role. So definitely, I think committees are great because we're educators and we're strong in our content, right? That's what we went to school for. That's what we were hired for. So committees allow you to share your knowledge on so many different topics just related to education. You don't have to know how to play basketball. You don't have to know, how to play soccer. You are being a leader in what you were hired to do. So starting on a committee, I think, is a great way to start because it's less time, you're confident in that, and then you can kind of build your confidence as you go along.
Oh, yeah, I think it's so important. I mean, there's so many different communities within a school building that need your voice, your support, your insight, your positivity, anything in between. And it's so important that we continue to put our best foot forward in the classroom, being a strong instructional leader, doing everything we can to get our students to be the best they can be in for that year that they are in your classroom. But when we also choose to step out of our classroom and be a good colleague and friend or mentor to a neighbor, or to sit in on a committee to lend our voices or perspectives, or to be a leader and find a co-counsel to lead an organization, a group within the building, you're really looking at the magnitude of the hats that the teachers can choose to wear in a building, and the impact that not only has on students but stakeholders, community members, and everything in between. So we want to encourage you during this weekly theme. And I know, Andrea, we've discussed kind of before we went live, this theme is so important, but it's also really important this week. We're trying to emphasize balance. It's really important to be a good teacher, to be a good member of the entire ecosystem, but within balance. And so, Andrea, I really appreciate your perspective of how to find that balance as we're exploring, walking into the building today and saying, is there a way I can get more involved, even though I have 1,000 things going on already in my own life, my own professional career? Is there a way I can get involved that gives back to somebody else? And being a simple, good neighbor, if nothing else, is a huge part of contributing to being a good staff member.
Yeah. And again, it's something that doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't take any money. You can literally, we're teachers, we have a million Post-it notes, right? Grab a Post-it note, put it on your friend's desk, on your coworker's desk. Like, hey, hope you have a good day. Because maybe that morning their baby spit up all over them, right? Maybe that morning or that night, their baby was up all night. Or their, son or daughter just got their driver's license and it was their first day driving to school by themselves. Just a simple Post-it note like, hey, have a good day. And be like, you know what? I am going to have a good day. Like, it's just something small. And I know Carly talked about last week, finding the joy in each day. And it could be something as small as that maybe, there she is, that Post-it note could be the one joy that somebody had, for their day. So I always believe in those little tiny things. Again, that was one perk that I did like of remote teaching last year, because I could. I used to always do it in person. As they walked in, I would say a little something to them, but instead I took over the chat and I would, as they were working on something, or just a little chat like, hey, hope you're having a good day. Or, ooh, I see, you have a poster up in your bedroom. That's one of my favorite bands too. Just something small like that can really help. I know I feed off of that. That's one of, Brianna Shaner always talks about your love languages. That's mine. Like, that builds me up. So I'd like to do that for other people too.
And it takes, I think we've talked about this on Daily Drop, and it takes 2 seconds to choose to be a good team member, a good friend, a good colleague. And so can you take 2 seconds today to do that for somebody else? And I love the component of whether it's a Post-it or a quick message. When Livia was a part of Daily Drop-In, we talked about building relationships with a quick text message. I mean, whatever you choose to do that with, that is a part of giving back to the culture and climate of a school building, is choosing to share that positivity, choosing to share that passion, that love, that appreciation. And something that you noted earlier, Andrea, is that concept of being seen. People like and appreciate when others acknowledge them. And so if it's a Post-it wishing them a good day, that's wonderful. It could be a Post-it to say, hey, I saw that you did something incredible in your classroom last week and you inspired me. I mean, those moments of showing somebody that you took the time to see them is incredibly powerful.
Oh, it's so huge. We did a few years ago at my school. It was kind of ridiculous, but it was, I guess you would call it like a wrestling belt. It was just somebody had it probably from somebody's Halloween costume. So it got passed around, and every week you would pass it to someone who, did something out of the ordinary, and you would literally get this sumo wrestler belt to put in your classroom or to wear. And I got it. I didn't know what it was. I was the first teacher to get it. I was new. And an 8th grade teacher presented it to me while I was teaching. I didn't even know who she was. I was like, who are you? Why are you in my room? What is happening? And of course, as the teacher, I got nervous. Gosh, I did something wrong. And I was involved in social media. And she was like, hi. She's like, I know we haven't gotten a chance to meet yet. She had been on maternity leave, so she had just come back. She goes, but I've been following you on Twitter and I love the things you're doing in your classroom. So here's this sumo wrestler belt that we passed around, and I put it on and the kids wanted to wear it. And it really brightened my day, because I felt like this, no one knew who I was. I don't know what I'm doing. And again, just sharing something out on social media, somebody else noticed. And then now that teacher and she doesn't work at the school with me anymore, but we both still communicate and I see her a lot. And that really fostered our relationship, because otherwise, as an 8th grade teacher, she was downstairs, I was upstairs. I didn't really get a chance to know her much, but me posting something on social media a few times kind of caught her eye. And then that just totally filled me up. I remember coming home and telling my husband, I got a sumo wrestler belt today. And he was like, are you okay? Let me explain.
But I think that, so I have to ask, and maybe this is silly for me to like be listening to this story and then have this question. So I apologize in advance for everybody that is tuning into Daily Drop-In this morning. But Andrea, like all the examples you've provided, not the majority of them have this theme of educator to educator, right? So the sumo wrestling belt, wherever that came from, somebody was giving it to you and it wasn't your principal giving that to you. It wasn't the assistant principal or the dean. It was another teacher taking the time to come to you. Is there an element of being a good staff member, right? We're kind of creating this connection between being a good instructional leader in the classroom, being a good staff member in the greater community. Is there an element of being a good staff member that doesn't rely on your leadership doing much of anything and you still being able to choose to make this decision? I mean, I think so often, and I do this all the time. So often I'm like, well, the principal should start it, or well, the assistant principal should give approval, or it should always come from the top. And the reality is like a lot of the goofy things that we discussed now, those feel good moments, you don't need your principal to model that or approve that or do anything in the involvement of that. It's just a team member going to another team member and choosing to make that decision, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I've worked in a lot of schools with a lot of administrators, and they all have their pros and their cons, but we all tend, and I myself included, we tend to want to blame, right? So if the culture of the school isn't the way you want it, we're going to blame admin.
Yeah,
Okay, they have a part of it,
sure.
but there's usually what, 2 or 3 admin in a building, and how many teachers, right? So a lot of it comes from us. If there is negativity, if you feel like the culture is toxic, look at who you're connecting with. Again, yes, does your administrator help guide that? Of course. But a lot of it comes from us. You know, it's just there's more of us than there are of them. So if there is something negative happening or lack thereof from the top down, make it happen bottom up because they're going to notice that. You know, they saw that we were passing around this sumo wrestler belt. You know, and then when Megan and I took over PBIS, it became we had 1 year our theme was music, so we had a microphone that we passed around, and we did it on the morning announcements where you would give a shout out to the teacher that it was going to, and that obviously was more fostered. You know, administration let us buy the microphone, but yeah, a lot of that positivity comes from us. There's more of us than there are of them.
You know, I think it's hard to acknowledge that, but I'm so glad that kind of came up this morning because I think as an educator, it's really easy to blame the people that are seemingly in charge. And don't get me wrong, guys, I love a good venting session. We all need to have our, closed door conversations and get all of our frustration out. And like being a leader is hard. All these positions are challenging, but I do see a lot of connection here between, yes, sometimes we feel like it's always the person above us that is causing the issue that's happening, maybe that we're not enjoying, but holy cow, it really does come down to teachers choosing to build that culture. And obviously we all have a part in it. I think that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes in the morning, to think like, oh, the thing I don't like about my school, I might have more control over than I'm willing to admit. But that is a powerful reminder that if you want to share positivity, if you want to think through the impact that you can make today, it doesn't take leadership getting involved in it. You can actually start that today on your
For
own.
sure.
And will you choose to?
Right. And I love what you said too, right? Like we don't want to disregard the venting, right? Because that's a part of human nature. You need to get those frustrations out, but it's how long do you perseverate on it and what do you do about it? So something that Megan and I feel like we're really good at when we were doing PBIS together, there were many times that we were told no. Like, let's say we had an idea, we would email it to our administrator, no. Okay, well, we could have taken that, and of course, we'd be like, why are they saying no? But then we built upon it. So I remember one time we got an email that had a whole bunch of no's. We're like, okay, how can we fix this? So we said, would you mind, can we have a meeting with you? Next thing you know, we explained and she explained, and a lot of our no's turned to yeses. So again, that venting session was good for us at the moment, but then we took it and we're able to problem solve with it. So I think that's a part of it as well. We could have stayed in that negativity. Well, oh wow, we can't do this. The admin won't let us, but instead we problem solved and were able to figure out. She knew where we were coming from, we knew where she was coming from, and we found a happy medium.
Yeah, teachers have power. I love that approach. Teachers have so much power to do this work. Carly Spina threw in a comment referencing Mandy Freilich, who, by the way, if you guys are not connected to Mandy Freilich, she's an incredible member of our speakers network over at teachbetter.com. Mandy Freilich once said, "It's not your administrator's job to engage or re-engage you." That has stuck with me. It's hard for me to hear it though. And that I think it's true. It's hard for us to sometimes take responsibility of elements of our role. And I appreciate some deep reflection this morning that we can have here on screen, but also hopefully you can have as your day continues is what responsibility do we have to be good staff members and what decisions? And I love the small suggestions we provided today alone. What small decisions can you choose to incorporate into your day to not just be a good instructional leader, to not just positively impact students, but to also engage with a staff member that needs your positivity, support, or brainstorming. I think that's so powerful. So, Andrea, we are going to transition here as we kind of wrap up our daily drop-in conversation to a recommendation for the week. As you guys know, every single Wednesday, we love to give you a recommendation, something to go consider, to challenge your thinking, and to enhance our discussion. So we'll be right back. All right, guys, it's Wednesday, so we have a recommendation for you. And Andrea, you specifically just, I feel like, inspired my recommendation for today because we are constantly trying to find new things to recommend to our community that isn't just, go check out all the stuff being done by the Teach Better team, but there are educators all over the world that are doing incredible things to support other educators. And we want to be somehow helpful in connecting you with content that allows you to reflect and be better, right? That mindset of better today, better tomorrow, that we all carry, that Teach Better mindset. This is a great avenue. And Andrea, as I was thinking about you being live today, you are somebody who I really consider a friend. You're my go-to gal in so many different capacities. I love working with you. And you are such a strong educator, such a strong female educator. And when I think of strong women, I think of a podcaster group that we just welcomed onto the network that I thought would be cool to highlight. I think you might know who I'm talking about.
I think I do.
Yeah. So Influential She is an incredible duo, two women, Deb and Mel, and they were just literally like within the month or so brought onto the Teach Better podcast network. If you guys don't already know of the podcast network, we have a huge, I can't even emphasize this network. It's kind of intimidating. We have a huge network of Teach Better team podcasters. These are educators legitimately around the world that facilitate podcasts on literally every topic. I think it's funny that I feel like we must cover every topic. And then Joshua Stamper, who runs the podcast network on the Teach Better team, comes to us and is like, hey, I just brought on 6 more podcasts that cover different topics and different ways to support educators. It's a crazy network. So if you are interested in kind of interacting with that podcast network, you can just go to teachbetter.com/podcast and go literally explore 30, 40 podcasters that it's way more than that. There's just a ton. I'm not articulating this, Andrea, stop me.
No, there's just so many. When we give our ambassador update every month, for Megan and I, we're like, okay, check out, we have 6 new podcasts. We have 5 new podcasts. It's in addition to all the money that we already have. But
well, here's what I love. And all these podcasters are able to focus on different things, which obviously is a huge benefit to all of us because we can all go engage with different content, different perspectives. Mel and Deb from Influential She, in my mind, this is so foolish to say. I feel like they have so much coming. I was going to say this is the beginning of their career, but it's not. Mel and Deb have been in education for a long time. They support a ton of people. They've been involved in politics. These are educators that they have impacted things in our lives that we don't even know about. The policies that they've worked on, they're a huge advocate for teacher payment being increased. Like these are powerful women that are located on the West Coast that if you've not connected with them, I'm telling you, more is yet to come. I even know that they have a little bit of a project that I want to see published soon. They have some epic things going on. But I will tell you, they also are part of the Teach Better Team podcast network, and they interview strong women. That's what their podcast is based off of. So it's not just strong women in education, it's strong women across a multitude of fields, and they feature their stories. And these are women that are changing the world. And I have no idea how they get in contact with all these guests, because it seems like every guest is better than the next. But I would love to recommend this podcast to all of you if you are looking for inspiration that keeps you thinking, even outside of the world of education, of how to give back to different communities, how to bring in different insight into your classroom. Holy cow. I know, Andrea, you've listened to their work before. Mel and Deb are doing incredible things. I love that we're able to recommend them today on Daily Drop-In.
Oh, definitely. And I feel like they're so different as well. Like we have a lot, again, there's a lot of podcasters and a lot of them have so many amazing things to share, but they definitely bring a different insight, which is really not needed. And as a woman and a mother, I really appreciate that.
I do have to say too, and I actually have gotten to know Mel and Deb quite well. I haven't talked to them in a few weeks. This is a reminder for me that I should go reach out to them and say hi. But they're also really good friends. Like they're just like a really cool, fun duo, which reminds me so much of you and Megan. You and Megan are like the bestest of friends. I know you do work separately. That's incredible, but you also come together and just make magic. And so when I think of like a female duo, I'm like, oh, you guys are like the same.
Well, I will take it as a huge compliment.
I mean it as a huge compliment. Like I just love the friendship that they have in their podcast as well. And they are so intellectually bright. Like, holy cow, they're like intimidating and warm at the same time.
It's like the perfect storm when you can get when you can find a friend like that and then find someone who helps push you to be better. And that's how I feel like they are and how Megan and I are. Like I'll get an idea and Megan will be like, how about we went up and do this? Or she gets an idea and I'm like, oh, well, let's do that. And that's how I feel like the two of them are. They definitely push each other to be better.
Yeah, so we would love to recommend, head to wherever you listen to your podcast, go search like Influential She, or if you don't find it, if it's not coming up easily for you, head to teachbetter.com, go to our speakers network. They're one of the first featured podcasts that we have on that very, very robust page. And you'll be able to see it's like a purple and white background if you're trying to see if you're on the right one. Mel and Deb are not only educators that I hope you enjoy their podcast with, but I hope you go connect with them on social media. They're so approachable. You can even reach out to them personally if you're looking to connect, if maybe you have a recommendation of somebody they should interview. But holy cow, like just Google them, like get their first and last name and Google them. They have been involved in epic elements of our lives that we don't even know that they've influenced. And now they have a podcast talking all about it. So I think that's so, so neat.
Perfect.
So, Andrea, I know we're wrapping up our daily drop-in this morning. You have shared so many different pieces for educators to consider. I know that you're very accessible. You're constantly supporting educators. But if an educator was listening now and wanted to reach out to you, maybe you're not already connected, what's the best avenue for them to do that? How can they reach out?
Sure. So right at the bottom of the screen, you can see that is my Twitter handle. So that is all things education related. Then I also have a Instagram page where I post stuff from my classroom. And then you can find me on Facebook as well. So Instagram and Twitter is the Coach Brenner ELA. That's a long last name. I'm sorry. I can blame my husband. And then on Facebook, it's a little bit easier. It's Andrea Lynn. If you follow anybody else on the Teach Better team, you'll be easily able to find me as a mutual friend. And Andrea Lynn is me.
There we go. I love it. We also have two beautiful children that we talk about all the time. We joke that many, many, many members of the team have beautiful families, but for whatever reason, Andrea, your two nuggets are like the babies of the team. Like baby Luke and Lily they're just like celebrities in my mind. So for those of you needing some family photos, some adorable babies, go check out Andrea's adorable family as well. It's always a good go-to.
Well, thank you. I love how it's baby Luke and Lily. Like it's always gonna be baby Luke, and then Lily is just Lily.
Yeah, even though baby Luke is the older one, but it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. For everyone else, we hope you enjoy your last few sips of coffee. Oh my gosh, I have just a little sip left of mine. Enjoying your morning. We hope that you have. I know, I love it. I hope that you have an incredible day. I know that we started our morning this way. We want to remind you this is going to be the best day yet. And I know that you've barely started your morning. You're just getting up and rolling this morning. Don't forget to brush your teeth and drink your coffee. Send a wonderful note to a friend. And we want to remind you that today is going to be awesome. So walk into the day, walk into your school building, ready to positively impact all the people that you are surrounded by. So thank you for all that you do. Andrea, thank you for joining me. And we'll see you tomorrow morning for Daily Drop-In at 7 a.m. Eastern. Bye, guys.
Bye, friends.